Hey da 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 da. Okay, I've just got to check the levels because right. We're going live shortly. Just about there. Jesus Christ, it gets tighter every minute. I think I'm just going to go live anyway. Fuck it, it's 9 o'clock. Excuse my language, all these kids who are watching. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go. I think people really know the true hypnotic power of television. You know how it pulls us in and just keeps telling us to consume, buy, and tells us to hate each other and separates us and causes the greatest divides, all under the name of entertainment. And every time I turn on my TV, it's just like no surprise. It's all of those programs and then pushing out lies, and then between these adverts and they do it again and trying to convince us that we're friends, and then us trained like good little soldiers. 1, 2, 3, 4.
They say we're going to spend $1 trillion this Christmas, believe it or not. Once again, global. See how mild and good tasting cigarettes can be. Once again, global. Once again, global. Once again.
Hi, I'm the OBG. I can hear a lot of echo here. Let me just turn that down. I think fate's trying to catch me every week. I've had a haircut. I cut it myself, actually. Notice I'm going bald at the back. Don't know what brought that on. I'm not wearing a hat because I'm bald. I'm not ashamed of being bald. But I must say it came as a bit of a shock because I've always had a full head of hair. In fact, I was growing my hair. And it was quite long. I was proud. And I was thinking, you know what, I might twist and get some dreadlocks again. Then I just thought that it felt a bit thin at the back. So I combed it. And I noticed, wow, it's flatter there by quite a degree. In the end, I done the vanity thing. And I looked in the mirror and I thought, Jesus Christ, I'm going bald. So, yeah, it happens to the best of us. But I've got to say, and it was a kind of a competition in my head. I reckon I must be one of the longest standing hair holding on to people out of everybody at my age, from my school, in my area. And those things are really important to me. So, hey, Martin, good to see you there, mate. I don't look over often, but yeah, thanks. Martin's one of the executive producers of the show. Gave a hefty donation, let's call it that, alongside with Mickey Roach and another Martin who wants to remain anonymous. I'm looking for 2 more executive producers, in fact, which means, you know, you give a donation, keep the show running. And even for regular folk, if you don't want to be an executive producer and you want to donate a little amount here and there, let me know so I can keep the show rolling. So I'm going to kick straight off. And once again, my preamble, I'm going to say it's a show about the people, by the people, for the people, which means it will work better if you contribute. So please send your stories, things you want me to cover, images, videos, or your music to obgchat@gmail.com. Yeah, obgchat@gmail.com. And together, you know, we can do this. And the aim is really to create a show that grows and grows until we have regular viewers that we can pull away from the mainstream for 10 minutes every day. And we are the producers. And doing that, if we can pull them away, would be a measure of our success.
You're the producers of the show. I just want to let you know.
So, going straight on, let's get into business. In the UK, a policeman was actually charged with murder. The police officer appeared in court and he was charged with the murder of former Aston Villa footballer Dalian Atkinson, who died after being tasered in 2016. So, if you just bear with me, I've actually got a little news clip from when that event happened.
Former English Premier League striker Dalian Atkinson has died after being shot with a taser by police. Officers say they were called to the house of Atkinson's father after a report for the safety of an individual in the early hours of Monday morning. The ex-Aston Villa star suffered a cardiac arrest after receiving medical treatment. The incident is being referred to the police watchdog, which has launched an investigation.
Okay, so Dalian Atkinson, in 2016, he was tasered by the police, and he ended up dying from cardiac arrest, which, you know, is strange for a man of that age who was a professional footballer, and as you can imagine, had a really high level of fitness. So anyway, a second police constable has also been charged with assault and causing actual bodily harm, ABH, and appeared alongside the other at Birmingham Magistrates Court on Thursday afternoon, and they were referred to as Constables A and B after lawyers requested anonymity. Constable B pleaded not guilty, to her charge and was granted bail to appear at Birmingham Crown Court later. And Constable A was remanded in custody to appear at the same hearing. Constable A has also been charged with unlawful act manslaughter as an alternative offence, which a jury has to consider if they cannot prove the more serious charge. So Dalian Atkinson died, with a little help, on 15th of August 2016 after being tasered by police near his father's house. And at the time he was obviously in stress and even had a drip hanging out of him from his medication. And, you know, whatever happened to good old policing, you know, when they would send in a couple of burly lads to take down even the toughest of criminals. And the problem with the police these days is that they can carry weapons and often abuse their powers. In 2013, Jordan Begley, 23, he died in hospital of cardiac arrest 2 hours after being shot with a stun gun and being restrained by police officers. And it's not actually against the law to carry weapons in the UK, by the way. I know it's hard for many of you to kind of fathom this, but if it was against the law, then the police wouldn't be able to carry weapons. If they can carry them, we can carry them. And there's just silly statutes that take away our rights if you consent, which I don't. But I'll leave the research to you. Anyway, and another case in point, even Dave Courtney, I don't know if you know this gangster guy, but he was allowed to carry knuckle dusters with him, and he got away with a little loophole there, and he had them as an ornament or something. But you don't need to get away with anything. You're allowed to carry stuff in the UK. So anyway, a charge of murder is going to prove difficult, to be honest. But according to common law, murder is considered to be malum in se, and that is an act which is evil within itself. And an act of murder is wrong or evil by its very nature, and it is the very nature of the act which does not require any specific detailing or definition in law to consider murder a crime. And as a point of interest, murder is also considered more serious if the murder itself, as if the murder itself isn't, when the act is, and I've got a few things here, premeditation, poisoning, murder of a child, murder of a police officer. Now, murder's murder. I don't truly believe, personal view, that it should be worse if you murder a policeman. They're human beings, they wear suits, and we give them this, super power status, which they abuse. It should be murder. A judge, a firefighter, or a witness to a crime, if you murder a pregnant woman, if you commit a murder for pay or other reward, such as a contract killing, if there's exceptional brutality or cruelty, and if there are methods which are dangerous to the public, for example, explosion, arson, shooting in a crowd, if you murder for a political reason, if your murder is committed in order to conceal another crime or facilitate its commission, treachery and hate crimes, which occur when a perpetrator targets a victim because of their perceived membership in a certain social group. Now, I believe we have a candidate in this group already. But also on a deeper level, we are human beings first and foremost, and if the police want to obtain special powers to control us, then they must not have the right to use weapons of any kind, unless faced with similar weapons. For instance, if somebody pulls out a baton or a knife or a gun, then those defences require special measures. But disobedient drunks do not need savage shock treatment. A taser is a lethal weapon, even though it's not classed as one. The number of deaths are witness to this, or testament to this. And this is in the UK alone, and the numbers are much higher in the United States. And for me, that's enough to abolish them and get back to proper policing. So, everything decays if left for long enough. And, you know, like water, food, steel, even plastic. And the same applies to every other human construct, the police being one of them. In fact, Sir Richard Mayne, he wrote a document titled The 9 Principles of Policing. And I know some of those principles. One of them, for instance, I'll do 3 or 4 of them. To recognise always that the power of police to fulfil their functions and duties is dependent on public approval of their existence, actions and behaviour, and on their ability to secure and maintain public respect. Another, to prevent crime and disorder as an alternative to their repression by military force and severity of legal punishment. To recognise always that to secure and maintain the respect and approval of the public means also the securing of the willing cooperation of the public in the task of securing observance of laws. To recognise always that the extent to which the cooperation of the public can be secured diminishes proportionately the necessity and use of physical force and compulsion for achieving their police objectives. So, you know, we have a police force by consent, but people forget that we have that power, and instead the police have grown into this massive gang, which I'm going to talk a bit on later, and they just keep asking for more powers and more money and more gadgets and, you know, more weapons. And furthermore, part of Richard Mayne's paper says it's also to recognise always that the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder and not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with them. So these are sound principles, but they're not truly adhered to these days. The police often pass the blame onto the public by stating that there is more violence or, you know, it's a necessity. But in my experience, the police are corrupt at all levels. The street rat police are likely the most vicious, the most often, and they're similar in all countries. They're a lawless gang of men who roam the streets with impunity. And these are the police that most cause the disrespect of ordinary citizens. And these are police are often racist, sexist, homophobic males, and they're responsible for people losing their confidence in the police. They're the police that murder and hurt people. They're the violent frontline of the police force that really needs severe, you know, reform. And I've run into them on many occasions, and they're scary, believe me. They simply drag people off of the streets and treat them like animals. And I'm not ashamed to say, I'll unashamedly bash one of them with fervour and enjoy it. There, I said it. Those people that have never come across them never truly understand. They're the sort of people who say, oh, it's really tough, you don't understand. And it's like, no, you've got to meet these people. It's not the fact that it's a policeman or, oh, these are police. It's a human being, a man intent on causing harm or even murder. And he stares you in the eye and he lets you know that he's going to mess you up, and he has the authority to do so. And if you even dare to try to fight back, he's going to harm you and his gang, and he's going to get away with it. They're a vicious gang of human beings that thrive on hate and violence. Yet we have them roaming the streets with their assumed superpowers, taking liberties. It really is time for reform. So, recently I asked for volunteers to take part in a little project. And thank you to everybody that signed up for the podcast idea. We've met our quota. So please make use of the messenger group that I set up, and you should all have access to the script now. So do have a read and practice your character of choice, but let me know which characters you'd like to play. If you don't mind which one, whatever's remaining after people have selected, then I'll hand those out, and then you can get practicing as soon as possible. And there will be a time limit, unenforceable, but you know, we have to try and get this in on time so I can build the podcast and do all the editing. And talking about time, that reminds me.
Something going on in this mind. If I know I'm looking so hard, I can't find it. Something going on in this head. Look at me, I used to be a funky dread.
So, time. Time's probably not what you think it is. Time's not a second, a minute or an hour. These are just labels we use to measure time. 1 hour is a measurement, a length of time, just as a ruler measures distance within the first 3 dimensions. If we take a triangle, for example, you may say that a triangle has 3 sides, each 2 centimetres long, but the measurement is not the object. In the same way, time is not the distance or how it is measured. Time is as the triangle is in space. So time can be measured, just like the side of a triangle can be measured. and the length of the side of the triangle, say it's 2 centimeters, but you wouldn't say that the object is the measurement. In the same way, you wouldn't say that the length of time, for instance, 2 hours, is time. The triangle has a length of 2 centimeters, and time has a length of 2 hours. Time is not the distance or measurement. Time is not an hour, a day, a year, or anything else. These are just measurements or lengths of time. So then, what is time? Right. Isaac Newton described time as an arrow or line that's constantly moving forward. So in other words, it's like an archer shooting an arrow that stays in motion forever. However, this is often misunderstood because most people think that the arrow represents a line and that the line or arrow is time with certain events shown as dots on the line. However, time is not the line. The line is simply the measurement, just like the centimetre. Time is the dot. Time is completely stagnant. The dot continuously moves along the line, going through different periods of measurements, but time is always contained within that one small dot. Time is only now. Time is that dot moving forward across a line. Each and every event in your life is experienced in the dot, in the now, in the present moment. Time flows like a river. Time flows in the dot. Time is now. The very moment is the only time for time. In other words, all we have is a present moment to experience and perceive our reality. The past and the future are simply illusions created by our time labels, which we need to function in society. Can you imagine trying to plan a get-together without measuring time? Even if everyone knew the correct location, you would have to hope that everyone somehow showed up at the correct moment. You would be stood up for nearly every event. Events only occur in the now. Events never occur in the then, past or future. You can plan or measure for events to happen in the future, but you can only experience them in the now or present moment. You can also think back to events that happened in the past, but you can never experience them again. So, even if you were able to create a past event down to the last detail, it would still be a completely new and independent experience according to time, no matter how similar it felt to you. So if you imagine these dots, what I just mentioned, now and then dots. Time is a dot on a line, and the line is measuring a distance. The dot is moving along the line as the years pass, but you are always in the dot. The only possible time you can ever perceive is right now, this very second. As far as we know, time has always been and always will be right now, this very moment. Events occur in this present moment, and when you sit back and just observe time passing, it's almost as if time no longer exists. And this is because you put away your tape measure and no longer hurrying or rushing or paying attention to how many seconds are between 2 points. You simply just reside in your one point, your one and only point, and you allow everything to be as it is. You rid yourself of stresses and you become fully conscious and aware. This is an extremely healthy and peaceful state of mind. Of course, it is impossible to only reside in your now dot without worrying about future dots along the arrow of life. You should also take into consideration that past dots that were experienced also part of your experience. However, just focusing on the dots and never taking the time to live in the now, which is the only time we actually experience anything, is a sad and intense way to live. And you're never truly alive without experiencing time, our fourth dimension, as it occurs. So stop spending so much measuring time and instead experience time. Live in our 4 dimensions, because life in our 4 dimensions is truly something to marvel. The first 3 make up our space and movement, and the 4th allows us to comprehend it. Observing life happening instead of applying any labels is the easiest way to achieve peace. Allow everything to be as it is now. However, we live in an era where individuals are estranged from one another, in a society where social bonds are fragmented and not as fundamental anymore, as the ethics have become formulaic, instrumental and considerably quantitative. And for the most part, the way we view our duties and obligations don't seem to put high values on the cultivation of our character or our virtues. Okay, and rather than seeking... Just bear with me a second. Sorry, I've got an emergency to tend to. Where's that emergency button? Live.
so hard I can't find. Something going on in his head. Look at me, I used to be a funky dread.
I get something wrong every week without fail. Hello, out of this world. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Education is a progressive discovery of our own ignorance. Let me start off with that. I had a little bit of a technical hitch there. I've got some people in and they're a bit noisy. I had to go and fight them. The education system is broken. I'll be presenting a video on the education system real soon. So do subscribe to this channel for notifications of new videos. So I'm going to end shortly, and I just want to end on discussing rage, opinion rage as I call it. So, everybody wants their right to rage, but many people disguise it as the right to opinion. And we all love well-informed, best-guessed opinions, but we also have a strong dislike for rage-fueled voices. Let me give you an example. Okay, let me just pick something at random. We're discussing cultural appropriation, the middle-class hobby in which they select a culture, adopt that as a new identity, spend lots of money faking the part, which they're completely oblivious to. You see, the middle class, in the main, they grow up without want or struggle. And it's not their fault. Some are, simply born into middle-class parents, and others are part of the hard-working, working-class parents that fought to, procure their property, cars, and to secure a place for their kids at good schools. However, the real middle class is what I'm talking about. The bland, colourless, boring, middle-educated people that have the biggest voice. Anyway. We're having an argument whereby I put forward prepositions moving towards a conclusion. Then all of a sudden, in a moment of rage, young Timothy says, well, what about when black people play rock music? Followed by an explanation as to why he's speaking Jamaican slang, dressing up in urban ghetto clothes, side glancing any black person while he tokes on a spliff, and claiming that it's all about evolution and progress and the sharing of cultural identity, which still remains a mystery to me as to why Timothy's thinking that way. And it's really opinion. It's simply a rage statement. And whenever I ask Timothy or Tara why they don't adopt German slang or dress, Greek music or Chinese culture, I think inwardly they know what they're doing, but to admit it would be to say, I target the poorest, most oppressed groups, and I feel entitled to adopt and mimic their music and mannerisms because I truly believe it's my right, and that the mimicry tricks me into believing I can look cool too. Stop it. I'm the OBG. I really should have. I don't think people really know the true hypnotic power of television. How it rules us in and just keeps telling us to consume, buy, and tells us to hate each other and separates us